All right, it's trying to go live. All right, popping out chat, saying hello. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us again for another episode of SEO Fight Club. We'll try to get through some of the boilerplate. I know we're starting about a minute early. We're waiting for more people to come in as well. So, Kyle, how is Thailand treating you?
So far, so we're in a cold snap. It
What
is
does
70.
that mean?
It's 70 degrees.
Wow.
But you should see the ski jackets that the Thais are wearing. I think any colder and they're ready to give up. This is it. Like, this is the threshold.
At what point do the elephants freeze?
I know, right? It's actually, but what is actually funny though is it does feel really cold. Actually, like you're looking at the temperature, like wow, it's only 71 degrees. It's nice, but all of a sudden it's like wow, this is kind of chilly.
All right, we got more people coming. So, Lee, what has been going on within the testing group at IMG? What's the state of the union there?
The state of the union is we are strong. That's, we're coming together in a lot of different areas, but now we are having better success, although not complete success, getting more things indexed, and we're starting to see people, our testers are getting very, very creative with some of the things that they're testing. So I'm excited to see what 2021 brings, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun and some really, really cool results.
Very cool. Yeah, the testing from last year kind of blew my mind. Like we did so many different things that were just incredible, from all the YouTube testing and the re-verifying how things work, the different the zoning laws testing, it's just was such a crazy year that I don't even know what to expect out of this year. Like the bar is set so high now that I'm not sure that we're setting reasonable goals and expectations of testing. What do you think? Has the game been escalating?
Yeah, it has been escalating, but I think, in the past, and Kyle, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we all tested, but we tested in silos. But now that we're, coming together and exchanging ideas off of each other, the testers themselves are getting more creative and more adventurous, I guess would be the way to say it. So, and you've got so many people with different background skills and viewpoints that, there are some things that I would have never thought of testing that, have come out, and I'm like, wow. So I think that just the natural exchange of ideas is going to continue to elevate to the level of testing. So
yeah, and I feel like the hold my beer factor has been ratcheted up. Like I'll say something stupid, and like somebody in the testing group will be like, hold my beer.
yeah, you can't do that. All right, hold on a minute.
yeah, I can't get away with as much as I used to be able to.
Well, I also get away a lot with saying Ted said this or Kyle said that, or they said you could never do this, and so people get motivated to go prove you guys wrong. So I use you as motivational.
Well, that's awesome. If we get good testing out of it, I'll say stupid shit all the time.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think we have a full group, so we'll go ahead and get into the weeds here. So, Clint, tell us about this week.
Hey, everyone. This week I did a roll-up of 7 stories. Most of those were forum posts, but it was actually some money makers and some traffic generators and some backlink stuff that you guys can get. out of Builder Society, which is a great forum. And then I go on to talking about how to analyze anchor text, your competition, so you can figure out the true anchor text ratios for your target keywords. And I think hopefully it was useful for everybody.
Yeah, I sat in on that one, and I thought it was pretty groundbreaking because it really brings up the concept of, you know, how is Google handling anchor text, and is it like an off-page keyword density? Is it augmenting your on-page content? Are they completely firewalled independent systems? You know, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, that raised a lot of questions for me. And just on the is it adding to your on page is something that is probably a little bit easier to measure. But as I said in the show, I don't know that that could actually be happening. And I gave a bunch of reasons why I don't think it would happen. And I think maybe your first instinct of them being on two separate systems and then it's combining and adding to this global score might actually be better. But that is you can go down with anchor text. You can go down all kinds of rabbit holes, especially after Penguin and the 1,000 talking heads that said, "Oh, you can only do 1 or 2% exact match anchors." And we've shown instances where that's wrong, and we've shown instances where that's right. So you just have to know how to do the research and figure it out for yourself.
Well, it's bound to be right for a keyword somewhere.
That's true.
So I don't think Dre is here, but if you haven't heard about his show, check it out. It's called the SEO Video Show. Clint, who does SEO this week, his show's on YouTube too. You just go to YouTube and search by title. So if you want to see Clint's show, search for SEO this week. If you want to see Dre's interview show, which is also great, search for SEO Video Show. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. It just makes SEO more fun when you do.
Ted, I know that Dre is also looking for SEO jokes.
Oh, God.
So if you have an SEO joke, you can record yourself and say who you are and what your company is. And it's an opportunity to get advertisement placement on a very successful YouTube show.
Yeah. There was a discussion over in SIA about that where it kind of got out of control. And what we all came to realize is that SEO humor is 3 levels below dad jokes, which makes it good enough for Facebook. But, oh dear Lord. So, Lauren, what's coming up with IMG?
Well, tomorrow is my favorite day of the month because it is the SEO Mastermind Test Review. Lee, would you like to give us a preview of that?
Well, we've got some interesting tests coming in, looking at things like YouTube. I think there's a links test in there, a couple of other interesting ones that I'm looking forward to reviewing with the testers themselves. So if you're an IMG, stop on by. It's a great way to ask questions of the testers and learn a little bit.
Excellent. Yeah, and then on Friday, we have our pro tip. And then Tuesday is the nighttime AMA, and Kyle Roof is going to be on that. So really looking forward to that as well.
So Kyle, on your AMA, how has attendance been? Like, I've noticed that, like, since we've done the pivot with IMG into courses, that attendance has been way up for the morning session.
Yeah, I think overall pretty good. Everhard is there every time. He is. Actually, he should just probably run the AMA at this point, to be perfectly honest.
I'm pretty sure that guy doesn't work. He's
unofficial co-host.
Or just officially just make him the host.
I sound like you, right?
But yeah, I don't think there were too many on last week, were there? But the week before and the week before that, yeah, attendance has definitely been up.
Nice. Yeah, if you haven't been to these AMAs, they're awesome. You can bring questions, you can bring topics that you just want to discuss, or you can be a fly on the wall and just passively take in the knowledge. It's a lot of fun. And you get to know other SEOs in the community, so it's networking value. So I highly recommend that you check that out. So to our topic, the SEO metagame. So first we have to define, what is a metagame. And so we're going to kind of compare SEO to like playing a modern video game. And games, they're engineered to have rules, and there are different odds of things happening. There's, randomness involved. And then there are choices you get to make. And those are kind of the design concepts of games. But what ends up happening is people who play games figure out strategies that work well. So there's this emergent behavior of how people choose to play the game. And then once people all gravitate towards one set of strategies, other people will react. They'll change how they play to adopt, countermeasures to how most people are playing. And so this notion that you're adapting how you play the game based on how people play the game, that's the metagame. And so SEO has a metagame too. There are these fixed engineered rules that Google has, which is the game. But then there are players in the game too, and we have to adapt to how other people are playing the SEO game. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think it's an under-discussed concept of how you play the SEO metagame. So, what are some of the aspects of the SEO metagame? There's how you adapt to other pages, how you adapt to other SEOs who are making moves. How do you adapt to changes to the rules of the game because Google is making moves? How do you look for opportunities that your competitors might be overlooking? Maybe there's something they should be doing, but since they're weak competition, they don't know. How can you exploit those advantages of things that they should know to do but don't? How do you learn about those advantages? How do you avoid wasting time? These are all concepts of the metagame in SEO. And to a certain extent, some of the aspects of this SEO metagame might be even more important than the SEO itself. Like, a lot of SEO is common knowledge that hasn't changed in a decade. Like, we all know titles are important and headings are important and the meta description is important and using your keywords is important. Those are rules of the SEO game, but really, adapting to what your competition is doing might actually be a more important facet of the gameplay itself than the actual rules of SEO. And a lot of understanding the SEO metagame is about understanding the place where the game is played. And so that's in the search result pages themselves. And so a lot of what I like to envision in the SEO metagame is happening in plain sight right there with your cohort of competing pages for your keyword. So that's kind of the game board is the way I see it. So to start, SEO has a lobby, and this is a gaming term for, when you're playing a game, when you have a match or a round, the lobby is the group of players you're competing against for that match or round. And so SEO has a lobby, in the sense that it's the other web pages that are ranking for the keyword you're targeting, and the SEOs who are trying to tune those pages to be competitive against you. So that's kind of the lobby and the game board and the rule set. And then most games will also have a concept called matchmaking rank. And this is how games try to pair up people of, nearly equivalent skill level. Because it's not fun if you go into a game and you just get destroyed instantly by, expert players. So this matchmaking ranking kind of tries to pair up beginners with beginners and experts with experts. And we see this in the SEO metagame. As you rise up the ranks within the search results, you tend to get, more and more qualified competitors. It gets harder to unseat the better ranking players. And the talent of the SEOs, especially in high competition keywords, tends to go up as you rise in the rankings. So it's not a static system. The game gets harder the better you do. And I often say that, going from number 70 for a keyword to number 30 is a whole lot easier than going from number 7 to number 3. It's because it's not linear. Even though it's the same percentage gain, one of those is far more difficult than the other. And so it's that concept of this matchmaking rank. If you're number 40, you're against people that are easy to beat. But if you're number 4, you're against people that are going to be pretty hard to beat. So with that, we see that rise in difficulty as you go up the rankings. And it's pretty impressive that, so many people get defeated by the big macro sites. And that's a mental part of the meta game. So here we have a search result where we have FindLaw and Yelp. But yet here's two law firms, little guys comparatively. And they're right up there at the top. And I guarantee these guys have SEOs who compete hard to get this traffic, and not only do they compete hard to get this traffic, but they kicked Yelp's ass when they did it too. This is some fierce gameplay at the top of this keyword. And this is the keyword I always go to for my examples. I call it my calibration keyword. So it's DUI lawyer Los Angeles. And the reason I like this keyword is because the SEO competition is fierce for it. The pay-per-click on it can get as high as $150 a click. So these players desperately want the free organic clicks. They'll do a whole lot of work to get them too. And so this is an example of where you've got some really high rank, talented SEOs competing fiercely to the point where they're beating out Yelp as like a macro site. And so it's important to understand that, as you rise up the ranks, that you are actually competing with better and better SEOs as you do that. I think most SEOs tend to think, well, if I just do my on page right, I'll go to the top. And why is it not working out for me? Well, that works so far, but you have to keep improving your understanding. You have to do more to your tuning. You have to consider all the aspects of on-page, off-page, trust, user signals, things of that nature. The game gets more complicated as you rise up those ranks. And so I think a lot of people get stuck with the notion that, if they tune their title and do a few basic things, that's really good enough. And for some keywords, like low competition keywords, absolutely, a little bit goes a really long way. Keyword like this, whole different ballpark. Another way that the meta game changes is that the factors that are important change as you rise through the ranks. And like, I hear nobody talking about this in SEO, but it happens all the time. Like, if you're a plumber and you have a brand new website and it has like 5 pages and it's WordPress and you launched it last month, putting some entities related to plumbing and related to your service area throughout your page is like, it's going to help a lot. It's going to make a big difference. But if you're number 4 and you want to get to number 3 and you have a backlink deficit of 40,000, less backlinks, sprinkling some entities throughout your page isn't going to do anything. It's going to be a no-op. And that's because as you rise the ranks, the types of factors and the degree of tuning that you need to do to those factors will change. The game you're playing evolves as you go up against that steeper and steeper competition. And so a lot of people will come to the table with one idea of how they're going to do their SEO, but not realize that their plan needs to change. They can have one plan from 70 to 40. They're going to need a different plan from 40 to 20. They're going to need a different plan from 20 to 10. And then they're going to go case by case on page 1. The gameplay, the way you play this SEO game is not a static strategy. You need to adapt while you're moving. And I never hear of SEOs talking about that aspect of SEO, but it's totally there. And another thing that's like kind of new, this is some of the testing that came out of last year, was that we're starting to see what rankings are differently. We're starting to view them as probabilities and not these fixed scalar values that rank trackers give you. The reason being is that you could have, a number 4 ranking where 75% of the time you're number 4, but the rest of the time you're number 7. But you could also have a number 4 ranking where you appear number 4 for 15% of searches. But when you appear, you're always number 4. So you're number 4 100% of the time. But those two number 4 rankings have very different values to the customer. One of those is a much, much better case than the other. And so you can have a number 4 ranking that is like totally crappy, or you could have a number 4 ranking that is rock solid. Not all number 4 rankings are the same. And another issue in the meta game is that, people start saying, well, I'm number 4 and I did what Page Optimizer Pro told me to do and my page didn't go up. Well, you're only looking at it from the perspective of the rankings, because there are things that you can do in SEO that if you're only looking at the rankings and not the rest of the game, you'll totally miss. Like if you have that number 4 ranking and Clint says, hey, it looks to me like entities are very strong. You should be putting entities on your page. Someone comes in and says, I'm number 4. I put entities on my page. It did nothing to my rankings. Well, those entities probably expanded your keyword reach. And if you got rankings for that expanded keyword reach, that probably boosted your organic traffic. And if it boosted your organic traffic, you might be getting more sales based off of that. So your organic revenue could have gone up, but your ranking didn't move. But more traffic and more sales, who the hell cares about the ranking going up? So there are aspects to this game that, you totally have to shift your mindset in order to really see what's going on big picture. And when we started measuring the probabilities of rankings, seeing, is Google giving you a spread? And when we say that your rankings are changing, we're saying that they're changing within a minute. Like, we'll check your rankings 20 times in a minute and find this variation. And this variance will be like, 70% of the time you're at this value, and 15% of the time you're being tested up at a higher position, and 15% of the time you're being tested lower. There are all kinds of configurations that we see. And there's also time sharing, which is you're not always in search for the keyword. So some of the time, some other website has your spot, like Google's testing to see if other content does better and just pulls you out. And so we see all this type of variance. You could make changes to your page. Like, we could say you need to diversify the number of factors you're using. You need to add a lot more diversity of the things you're tuning on page. It might not change your ranking, but it might solidify your ranking. You might have a week 4, like before, where it's you're number 4 in the rank tracker, but you're only there 15% of time. You make some changes, well, now you're there all the time. You're still number 4, but that's more traffic. If you solidify that 4, that is positive SEO change. Most SEOs, they won't report on it. They won't even know that that's an opportunity, that, hey, our weak number 4 became a solid number 4 and it nearly doubled our organic traffic. That's one hell of a bragging right. Most SEOs don't even know they're playing that game. So this is the output of a tool that I have. I know it's hard to read, but it's showing those ranking probabilities and the spread of where the URL is appearing. And the cool part of this is that we see that there's very little variance up at the top. So this is a visualization of how the rankings tend to get more solid, harder to unseat as you get near the top of the game. So this is an easy game to play down here, but as you rise in the rankings, it gets harder to make these things move. And so we found that looking at rankings as a probability, it's kind of a keyword difficulty test. So it's a pretty important discovery. Another thing that's part of the meta game that people don't realize is that the people that are hiring us, our employers, our clients, things of that nature, they're a part of the meta game. Oftentimes, if you're doing short-term contracts, people are hiring you and expecting a level of gameplay out of that short-term contract. And so it's really difficult to manage those expectations and to be able to deliver results so you get to the next interval of the short-term contract. That's a hard game to play. And if you can reframe everything so that you're managing the expectation and getting the time it takes to create real change for the client, that completely changes things. What I found was that being an in-house SEO had huge advantages over agencies. Like, I could keep agencies at bay left and right because they just couldn't do the things I was doing, especially in the time frame that they would offer up for a service contract. So if I was getting all of page 1 and half of page 2, and I had the past 10 years to set that up, an agency comes in and says, hey, we'll do SEO for you, and it's only a 6-month contract. The employer is going to be like, well, can you get us all of page 1 and half of page 2 for these several hundred keywords? The agency is like, nope. And, being that in-house SEO gave me a ton of freedom. It also allowed me to do things that SEOs that only get a 3-month contract or a 6-month contract, they couldn't do SEO my way. You can't get, all of page 1 and half of page 2 for 50,000 keywords if you think the engagement's going to end in 3 months. You just can't play that. That's a long-term game. And so different SEOs have different advantages. So when I see people at, SEO Signals Lab or other groups saying, well, if SEOs are so good, why don't they rank for payday loans? Well, they're telling people that get hired for 3 and 6 month contracts, why don't you rank for payday loans? The reason people win payday loans is they hired an SEO to do that, and they stuck with that SEO for 5 years. And so you don't expect to get a 5-year result out of a 3-month contract. I mean, that's so insulting. I mean, do you go to your stockbroker and say, I demand a 5-year return on my 3-month investment? I mean, hell no. So if you want to win a keyword like payday loans, that's fine. Just hire a really talented SEO and give them 5 years to do it, like the winners of payday loans had to do. That's how that's part of the metagame. And so if the people that are paying the bills don't understand this aspect of the metagame, it's going to affect your ability to win. And so you're going to have to rally the troops, circle the wagons, get everybody on the same page that some strategies in SEO are multi-year strategies. And if they don't believe you're the right person to do it, they ought to fire you right now and go find the right person. But you should also be saying, I am the right person to do it, but I need you to invest in this plan if this is what you want. Because, if you want to have a trophy keyword like payday loans, it's going to be a multi-year effort. And so, that's totally part of the metagame, is setting things up so that you even get the chance to do that kind of SEO. And most agencies never get the chance because of the contract length. So it's really hard to do that type of long-term SEO strategy when you think the contract's going to end. Internal sabotage. I know it well. I had an employer that hired me to do SEO. And week 1, when I showed up, he handed me the pay-per-click account and had me managing $1 million pay-per-click ad spend. And obviously, if you've ever done $1 million pay-per-click ad spend, that's a full-time job. And by the end of that year, he fired me because my SEO was shit. And that happens a lot. Can you spot the problem? Can you see what went wrong there? That's part of the meta game. Is I got sabotaged from within by my own employer. And it's the exact same problem as demanding a 5-year result from a 3-month contract. He gave me 1 year of time, but he gave me 5 years of work. And so obviously that time was wasted because of that strategy. So that was a point in my career where I did not manage the meta game well, and it just flew off the rails. So I guess we'll we'll move over to some discussion. I know this is kind of a short one, but what do you guys think about what I've said about the SEO metagame? What are your experiences?
The only thing that I would mention is that, and we've talked about this before, that as SEOs, we think we're the only SEOs. So that when we hit page one and we knock somebody off of page one, we think, well, we did that. And often don't think about that we move somebody off of page one and they might not be very happy about that. And they might be doing something to get back onto page one, which then kind of goes to the escalation that you were talking about, that, you know, there are probably SEOs for all those sites on page one, especially if you're something that's even medium competition, which means that as people move up, you know, as there are winners, there are losers, and the losers probably want to get back on page one. So it's not just a set it and forget it, and I got there, and I'm the only one doing any of this, and you know, that's all there is to it. And that also goes to the, hey, I've done this work and I haven't moved or I haven't gone up. Well, other people are doing work too. You know, they're also optimizing things, and which can impact how you end up. It's not just you doing work to finally get to a spot and then you're good to go.
Sam on YouTube said, but Ted, how are you going to sell a 5-year contract? Well, the thing I'd like to point out is the in-house SEO you're competing with for a keyword, he doesn't have that problem. And so really it's on you to explain the competition, to explain the rules of this game to your employer, to know that some goals in SEO aren't short-term. Some goals are long-term. And so really it's about managing those expectations and giving your employer the choices, saying, yeah, we can go for payday loans as a keyword, but just note that it might take 3 years to do it, because the in-house SEOs for payday loans, they've been working those keywords for 5 or 6 years, and they haven't been idle. They've been link building. You've given me a 3-month contract. I can't do 6 years of link building in 3 months, even if I put in overtime. So at some point, you know, some of these scenarios are long-term, and it's about letting the employer or the client know that some objectives are big. They're big commitments. And, you know, if you can articulate that well, then maybe they're willing to invest in a longer term commitment to try to achieve those goals.
I think there was one thing that I was surprised wasn't on your slides, actually, Ted, one that I think you missed, which is you're going along and you're in this game and you're jostling for position, and then all of a sudden Google changes the rules and you were playing Uno and now you're playing soccer, and the competitors, the pages that you're competing against, and maybe the SEOs as well, is a completely different game.
Yeah. I mean, Google changing the game is another thing you have to adapt to. It's how quickly can you relearn what you know? How quickly can you re-verify that things still work? And that's definitely a modern aspect to SEO. Old school SEOs didn't have to deal with that as much, or at least they chose not to deal with that as much. So, Clint, what are your experiences with the metagame?
I think that you guys made some great points, and this is probably one of our better shows in quite some time. It seems like a mundane topic at first, but if you think about it in this way, Ted essentially created a sales pitch for you, so you can kind of get away from prospecting or handing off technical analysis and all that stuff that we all do. I did this site audit and this is where you're at. You can kind of show this. And it's, to me, like that one slide that you had up, the payday loan slide, that one I screenshotted because that's going in my sales deck like today. And it's just, and then to the points that Kyle made where that's a maintenance thing, justifying your maintenance plan. You charge them, I'll just say, I'll throw out a number, $2,000 a month to rank them, and then Now they're there and they're like, why do I keep paying you this? Well, there's your argument right there. It took us $2,000 a month to get there. Guess what? All these other people that we just pushed down are trying to do now, and they're investing that $2,000 a month. And so, do you want to stay there? Do you like the leads, etc.? So I think it's pretty interesting, and this is probably one of the better shows. Where can people get a copy of this deck?
That's a good question. Maybe we'll find a spot on IMG somewhere to post them all.
Yeah, we'll make sure to post the deck with the replay.
Yeah, we've started using Google Docs for the presentations instead of PowerPoint, and so that helps us have them out there in the cloud somewhere, all collected together. So yeah, we'll figure out something for that.
Cool. Yeah, if you're watching this, get into the ING, get the recording, look at it again, get the deck, and then turn that into your sales presentation, and you'll be able to close and sign a lot more people, and those people won't be such a pain in the ass down the road asking you 3 months later why you're not ranking for payday loans yet. You've already pre-positioned that and handled that future objection during your sales call, and save yourself a lot of drama and help filter your clients out.
So Carolyn, it looked like you had something you wanted to say.
Well, I don't want to overlook that probability when you're rank tracking, because you know how clients are, that's like, well, why am I ranking this, but traffic went down?
Yeah. Ranking probabilities have been a problem forever. And it's another thing that people never talk about. But I know that SEOs can relate. I can be like, how many times in your past have you told a client that, I checked our rankings this morning and you were number 14, and the client went and checked and said, no, we're not. We're number 25. Our SEO is a bozo. Well, it's those ranking probabilities. What you actually needed to say was, 70% of the time we're at number 14 with the worst case of, 24. And that way they know to try a few times and go, oh, yeah. When I try a couple times, it all works out. But yeah, those rank trackers that just tell you you're number 4, they're not telling you the whole story.
Are you okay if I steal this topic as a podcast topic?
Yes, anybody can use this topic and can create derivative works on it. I'm fine with that. I want SEOs to be successful.
Thanks.
So let's see. Another comment. Yes, the problem is the employer is stupid. I believe that was in reference to the time I got fired for bad SEO. Well, that employer was actually very smart, but he wasn't smart about SEO, and that's the problem. Is people don't understand SEO. It's technical. If they have business acumen, they don't even think in terms of what we talk about. We talk about rankings, and they're wondering about conversions and revenue. And so our KPIs don't even align. And so, yeah, you need to manage and communicate and sometimes even translate better in those situations. And, my example is a case where I dropped the ball, but I imagine a lot of people have had a similar experience to that at one point in time or another, where, they're hired to do one thing, then asked to do something else, and then in trouble for not getting the first thing to their satisfaction. It's the most common work problem there probably is. Probably happens everywhere. So, any more final thoughts on the metagame? Because I think we're out of questions. Oh wait, that looks like there's some here in chat. A lot of people commenting on the 5-year return in 3 months. Thane is asking, would clients understand about checking multiple times? Well, it's a new concept, but I think it's, if you don't set the expectation that a ranking is a probability, they stand zero chance to check it multiple times. So I think if you tell people that 70% of the time you're ranking number 14, then if your rankings don't improve, you have another KPI to go back to. You can say, well, our rankings didn't go up, but now 100% of the time we're number 14. We stabilized our ranking. You have another dimension for improvement and demonstrating improvement. Remember last week when only 3 out of 10 searches we were at number 4? Well, this week we're 7 out of 10 searches at number 4. And that does equate to traffic, to organic traffic. So even though your rankings didn't go up, your traffic can improve. And you kind of need to be watching rankings and traffic and conversions and revenue, because that's going to give you the ultimate bragging rights. And it's also going to give you the best indicator of the overall health of the entire ecosystem. So, if there's something wrong anywhere, those KPIs, in a dashboard are going to alert you the quickest.
Yeah, you can also see this in Search Console. I'm sorry, Clint. Just that, like in Search Console, it'll show that you're ranking like 2.5. There is no ranking 2.5. That means that you're moving, up and down or around. So the idea is that you can actually see that there is variance within Search Console and how they describe how you're ranking for a particular keyword. Sorry about that, Clint.
No, that's okay. And then Google Analytics, GA4 has all of the goals built in now. So you really have no excuse for not having those goals. All the most common goals are all built in the GA4 now. All you got to do literally is go in there and turn them on. And on top of that, find a rank tracker. Obviously, we don't all have a TED tool and we can't make our own, but I know the SERPworks will actually do kind of what TED does. TED's is a little bit cleaner, but SERPworks you can watch and see all those variations and it just kind of illustrate to your client. Look, last month we were doing this, and then now this month we're kind of nice and steady, so we're on the right track. You know what I mean? And your clients understand this versus this.
Yeah. The histogram of SERPworks is pretty good. The blind spot of SERPworks is that it's kind of a daily tracking. But it's not telling you in the instant, because were you to track 20 times in a minute, there's actually variance, in the instant, in the moment, you got that variance.
Right. But unless you're selling access to your tool, we deal with what we got.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And SERPworks is a great solution. And yeah, you don't really want to be checking instantaneous rankings throughout the whole day. That's crazy talk.
And we said SERPworks, but we meant SERPwoo. I'm sorry.
SERPwoo. Yes. Yeah. I have the mental image of all the colored lines, which is a cool way to look at rankings. It really shows volatility. And again, it also shows the volatility for the lower ranks, and then things kind of lock in generally as you move up. So it's another confirmation system.
Ted, there was a question that I kind of see a lot in a lot of different contexts and SEO groups that ties into this, and I'll throw it open to you and the panel as well. A client can say something to you like, my cousin's an SEO and he ranked number 1 for, purple knee-high unicorn non-slip socks in only 3 months. Why is it going to take you 5 years to rank for payday loan? Why don't I just hire my cousin? How do you?
Well, it it all comes down to every keyword is different. It's why there's not one answer. You know, if it was, then a keyword density of 2.2% would have been right 6 years ago, and it was never right. There's no single set of advice that works for everyone, and you kind of have to reevaluate on a keyword by keyword basis. And it's not just for managing the expectations of that client, you know, why it's going to take so much longer than, you know, his cousin did for a much easier keyword. It's also so that you cost things out properly. You might be able to say that, yeah, I can get you plumber for this city in 2 months and it'll cost you X, but plumber for that city is going to take 6 months and is going to cost you Y. Even though they're both plumber city, they're different cities, different degrees of competition, much steeper tuning requirements. And modern SEOs with the right measurement tools, they can put that in the presentation. They can say, see, look, we need to link build 500 backlinks to be competitive for this market, but we need almost 15,000 backlinks for this other market. And so obviously those aren't going to be delivered on the same date. And so it's important to understand. And then if you have those factor measurements, if you're like, well, you know, we're short 15,000 backlinks, we need to expand our content by, you know, 4,000 words. We need this many of this factor, that many of that factor. You can start dividing those up by weeks and months. You can create a timeline that you feel is reasonable for doling out that work. You can have your whole, you know, project management just totally scoped out. And, you know, then you can go and say, yes, we can compete for this term, but it's going to take this kind of timeline and this type of, you know, this amount of investment in the effort. But, you know, I don't think a lot of SEO is done that way. It's not managed like it's a project. It tends to be managed more like it's a utility bill. How do you deal with that, Kyle?
Which part specifically?
The part where the job requirements can change from keyword to keyword, but, you know, a lot of the clients kind of just view it as a static utility bill.
I found that the best way to go at those types of things, it's always at the beginning when you're first talking with the client and explaining what you're going to do. And something that we'll never tell clients is that we're going to get to number one for anything. What we tell them is that you're going to get more impressions and you're going to get more clicks, you know, because that's the reality of what you can actually predict or what you can tell them, you know, that, you know, we don't control Google, and people might be cheating and we're not going to cheat in the same way. You know, there's certain things that are just completely outside of our control, but what's in our control is that we can build pages that will cast a very wide net, and our healthy pages will continue to gain keywords, will continue to gain impressions, which will gain clicks. And that's so we set those KPI benchmarks. And if people like that concept, then they'll come with us. But if they don't, you know, if they're looking for someone that's going to guarantee something that we're not going to do, then that's where friction can come on down the road. So the best way to handle that is to avoid it at the beginning, and let people know this is how we do it. You know, and these are our goals, and this is how we think we can make you a more successful company. And so that's the way to do it. If you're trying to do it midstream, though, that's very difficult. you know, which is probably how a lot of things go, where you realize you get into a contract and you're like, yeah, this is not going very well at all. You know, trying then to re-explain or reshift the client at that point is going to be very, very difficult. I think you probably won't have them much longer.
How do you handle the changing of the goalpost? So you get the engagement for expectation 1, and then they drop a new trophy term on you.
Well, you know, in that situation, because we talk about how we do it at the beginning, you know, and then we explain that different keywords have different requirements, because we'll give a general estimate. We have a way to calculate how long it might take to win a particular keyword, all things being equal. And within that, when they talk about some of their more vanity terms or things they might be interested in, they can see that there's a different calculation. So right from the outgo, they can see that these types of terms might be a little bit easier, which means lower time. These are a little bit more difficult, which might mean more time. We explained that that's also on a, we won't know until we really get in, but because that's also in the proposal level. But at that point, we're already talking about the different keywords require different things and take different amounts of time.
Nice. So we should probably wrap it up. Do you have anything you need to announce? Any speaking engagements or events?
I was just on the Voices of Search podcast. So that should be coming out, I think, in 2 weeks. So
nice.
Look for that.
How about you, Clint? Anything coming up?
Nope, it's just sticking in the ground, got my head in the ground and just working away.
Just SEO this week. And what day is that on again? Is that on Mondays now?
Mondays at 2 Arizona time.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone.